Hi, it's Dwyer. Today is June the 3rd, 2017. GamblersAdvisory.com, dwyersportsbetting.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now first, just some commentary. I think it's an absolute outrage. This really is an embarrassment to law enforcement and to civil liberties that this Tiger Woods film has made it to the public. You've got to be kidding me. Isn't this a violation of his right to privacy? Let me just get this straight. I'm supposed to be assumed to be innocent. The cops come over to my car, right, which is parked. I'm not even driving the car. I get out the car and they ask me to submit to tests and stuff like that. And you mean to tell me that somehow the video of my tests then ends up out in the public? How's that possible? Number one, am I not presumed innocent until proven guilty? Number two, what incentive do I have to cooperate with police? Right, what this tells me is you're pulled over by the cops. They say, hey, submit to a test. You're looking around, you're like, hey, forget that. I mean, you know, I'd much rather exercise my right to remain silent, knowing that if I voluntarily give a test, right? Tiger could have lawyered up. He didn't. He voluntarily gives a test, and now they're using this test to literally make the guy look bad in public when the guy hasn't been convicted of anything. This is simply outrageous. The police here should feel embarrassed. The lesson here for the rest of us, simply put, is to lawyer up. Don't talk to cops, because the cops will do things like this. It's not speculation. You're actually watching it happen in broad daylight. Let's talk about Ward Kovalev here. Let me just say this. I understand that, this fight has a history. Now, I'm here online in other videos. I've said that I believe Kovalev wins this fight. That's how I see the fight playing out. I'm taking Kovalev in this fight. I know the public, look, a portion of the public, I'm sure, looked at the official result of the first fight and thought to themselves, well, why wouldn't this play out the same way? Not only that, there's folklore out there, right? Andre Ward slipped up a little bit in the early part of the fight. He came back. He's cracked the code of Kovalev, right? He should pick up where we left off. Now, first, I'm not buying it, right? This is one man's opinion. I know the comment section to this video is going to be filled with provocative comments, right? But what I saw the first fight was Kovalev dominate for the first half, right? That's what I saw, right? Andre Ward gets up off the canvas, right? I didn't see Andre Ward win a lot of rounds in the first half. Then I saw a second half where Ward looked better than he did in the first half, but he didn't look better than Kovalev. I didn't see the big comeback, right? I just didn't. So, in my opinion, just judging the personalities here, and I have the utmost respect for both guys, right? I do. But this is a gambling site. Right? I'm not here trying to make political announcements. No, I'm just here trying to pick the winner. Right? I believe that Kovalev feels that he got railroaded the first fight. You know the mindset. Right? A fighter shows up, feels he wins, and then is the most shocked man in the room when the judges' scorecards are announced. And everyone has the same 114, 113. And then they're telling you that you've lost the match. Now, if anyone saw the movie Hurricane with Denzel Washington, there's a moment in that movie, and I know it's fiction, I'm just using it for dramatic reasons here in this video, there's a moment in that movie. It actually led to a lawsuit later, right? The movie didn't accurately depict the fight. But they show you Hurricane Carter's fight against Joey Giardello, right? Then they, show you Hurricane looking good, right? Hurricane played by Denzel. Then they announce the scoring, and they call it for Giardello, right? And Denzel Washington looks around at the crowd. It's actually one of my favorite scenes in any movie. Denzel looks around at the crowd. And without a word being said, that he feels the whole thing has been a charade. That he won this fight, and for whatever reason, social reasons, political reasons, right? Reasons other than what actually happened, they're giving it to the house fighter, right? So then Denzel just looks around, sees the crowd cheering, right? Is thinking to himself, this is nonsense. Then he leaves the ring. Folks, substitute Kovalev for the Denzel role. Understand the personalities here. Kovalev doesn't feel that he's ever lost to Andre Ward. Right? You want to talk about the guy on the mission. I'm telling you, it's the guy who feels in his bones that he's not only better, but that he's done better in head-to-head matchups. Right? This isn't a situation where Kovalev is showing up and thinking, man, if I would have just done one or two things differently that first fight, I could have gotten a decision. No, Kovalev feels that first fight was a charade. I know when the camera's rolling and everyone's giving their post-fight comments and stuff, people clean it up. There are commercial sponsors involved, right? Hell, they're commercial sponsors for this video, right? People are mindful, too, of the sacrifices other people have made, right? The promoter, the management teams and stuff like that. And so they don't want to really keep it real, right? They don't want to, with a nod to Blackbear here, they don't really want to do-re-mi on camera, right? But Kovalev is thinking, this is a joke. Right? Kovalev is like, look, this whole system, this whole boxing game is a joke. If people aren't going to step in and acknowledge what's obvious, that I won the fight. Right? Now, I know there are people like Adam Booth who scored the fight in real time on Twitter who had Andre Ward winning the fight by a round. Right? I have no doubt that there are members of Ward's team who firmly believe that Andre Ward won the fight. Right? I'm just telling you, that's not the fight I saw. Right? In fact, if you listen to the commentary of the second half of the fight, there's a round there at the end of the round where Jim Lampley on the air is openly wondering whether Andre Ward gave the fight away by losing that round, a round he needed to get the margin that he got. Right? So in my opinion, Kovalev is a man on a mission. I believe when you're the fighter who got the gift the first time, it's hard to match the level of motivation that the guy who got robbed the first time has entering the ring. Right? Let's also talk about just some realities here on the fight. And they're very important. Right? Kovalev is widely, in my opinion, misunderstood style-wise. We look at him, he's a KO artist. That's one of the hardest punches in boxing. Right? One of his opponents didn't survive. Lost his life after the fight. Right. Kovalev hits that hard. But understand, it's Kovalev's jab. That's what's special. Right? He's like Carlos Monzon, the great middleweight champion. Right? That jab is a 2x4. Right? It's like a Larry Holmes jab. You need to view Kovalev as the jabber who isn't trying to stick and move. He's just trying to stick. Right? Very hardcore jab. Now right here, I know YouTube tells me a portion of my audience is from the UK. So let me just explain here the concept of a fastball. Right? In baseball, American sport. You're in the batter's box. The pitcher is Aroldis Chapman. You know he throws a fastball at greater than 100 miles an hour. He knows he has a fastball. That's better than almost any other fastball in the major leagues. This isn't a guessing game. Right? You know he's going to throw the fastball. He knows he's going to throw the fastball. The question is whether you can hit it. Right? If you can't, you're going to get smoked. Right? You can be the smartest guy in the world. You could be Einstein at the plate. You could have studied hitting theory. You could have read books by Rod Carew and Ted Williams and Tony Gwynn. Right? You could have done all of that. But if you can't get the bat around on a fastball going 101 miles an hour, you're going to swing and miss, or you're going to have called strikes against you. Let me just say, this is kind of like a little bit of a variation on Kell Brook versus Errol Spence, right? In that fight, I thought Kell Brook had the advantage in the very early rounds. Right here, because of this Kovalev jab, while I feel that Andre Ward is actually the more accomplished boxer, right? Ward is the multilingualist. Ward is the guy who can fight you on his back foot, fight you on his front foot, stick and move, or stand in the pocket and mid-range hooker style, right? Ward can do it all. But the fastball belongs to Kovalev, right? And the problem is Ward can't hit the pitches early in the bout, right? The problem with dealing with a great jabber, as heavyweights during the Larry Holmes era know, is if you go backwards, it looks like you're running away from the guy. Right? Ward understands he can't just back foot it, because that jab is going to be there and Kovalev is going to be on his front foot hunting him down. Right? So then, when you try to get inside, a great jabber is going to have that jab in the way. It's going to be between you and him. Right? The problem too is if the guys clinch when you get by the jab, the ref's going to separate you, and guess what? You have to deal with that jab again on the way in. Also, Ward isn't a devastating puncher. Right? He's not the kind of guy who can slip a jab and then bam, hit you in the ribs and have you feeling that rib shot. So when the fighters are separated, you've been weakened. The guy with the punch in the fight is Kovalev, not Ward. So, I believe again, right, Kovalev with a full tank wins the rounds, in my opinion, over Andre Ward. That's what happened the first time. I know knockdowns cause amnesia. Ignore the knockdown in the first fight. Right? And keep in mind, that was in Kovalev's favor. Just ignore it for a second. Understand that in those early rounds, Kovalev's jab is a difference maker. Well, here's where it gets interesting. I know the camps want you to believe that everyone's upset with their trainer. Right? They're differing versions. One camp wants you to believe that one of the trainers said, hey, I'll train your guy. Here's my price. Right? The other camp wants you to believe that, you know, that fighter's team came and said, hey, we want you to train our guy. Okay, fine. Right? Kovalev's hired an endurance guy. Right? Some guy who's supposed to help him with nutrition. Now, we're at a stage in boxing where A lot of these nutritional guys are flocking to the sport, right? Memo, Victor Conti, right? Bunch of these guys are flocking to the sport. Kovalev believes that if he can just maintain his A game, right? Forget the knockdowns, just boxing here. If he can just maintain his A game, throw a jab, have punches ready in case Andre gets inside, have this jab, which is not an appetizer, it's a main course jab, it's a Monzon jab. Have this jab bludgeon Andre Ward, right? And if, unlike Kell Brook, if Kovalev can keep that going and not tire too much as the fight goes on, I believe the Kovalev team believes that this fight is not just winnable, but this fight is a relatively easy fight, right? I think they firmly believe, and forget what's being said now. You have access to past comments online here. This is a new age, right? Just Google the statements of John David Jackson, Kovalev's trainer, right after the decision is announced. Right? The Kovalev team really thought they won the fight by a few rounds. Let me just say too, at the end of the round, Kovalev and Ward, who are not best friends, right, actually show some respect to the guys, right? They actually, touch gloves, embrace a little bit. Well, you know the rest. That goodwill is gone now, right? Because Kovalev feels he was a victim of injustice. So let me tell you what I expect. I expect Kovalev's jab to be the difference maker. I also feel too, and I've watched boxing a long time, that we as fans will accept a decision like the first decision. We'll say, you know what? Andre Ward is a great guy, right? He got off the canvas. He hung in there against Kovalev. He did all he could to win the fight. He did do better as the fight went along, right? So then you hear that Andre Ward has won the fight, and, all is right in the world. You say, well, you know what? The good guy. The guy who hasn't been accused of making insensitive remarks, right? The guy who is more press friendly. The guy who you can bring to the local YMCA and he's there wanting to come with you, wants to be a role model to the kids. That guy won the fight, right? We can live with that. But in the back of our heads, we know that's not what the fight game is all about. Right? It's not supposed to be about who's best for society and stuff like that. Who actually won the fight? I think there are many of you, and I know not many of you expressed these views after the first fight in the comment section of that video. But I know many of you saw the same fight I did. Right? Let me just tell you too, some boxers did too. Vasyl Lomachenko was asked to name his 3 top fighters pound for pound. Right? He quietly said Golovkin, Terence Crawford, and Sergey Kovalev. Right? Let's just say Lomachenko saw the fight and didn't reach the conclusion that Kovalev lost the fight. Right? I think if you just listen to the audio from the first fight, right? The HBO pay-per-view audio. The announcers themselves were wondering if Andre Ward had won the fight. And let me just say, HBO tends to favor, in my opinion, the house fighter, the guy who has the HBO contract, right? So, Andre Ward cannot beat, style-wise, in my opinion, Sergey Kovalev when Kovalev's fully rested from the outside in, right? In other words, he cannot stick and move, stay outside against a guy with a superior jab, right? And superior power, who knows how to box. The secret with Kovalev is he's not just in there winging shots, right? He paces himself, he times himself, he has spectacular balance, right? His jab is Larry Holmes level, right? So what Andre Ward is hoping for, in my opinion, is to be able to get inside, because Ward has the advantage up close when he can lower a shoulder and dig shots to the body, right? When you get too close to Kovalev, what Kovalev tries to do is to put up arm bars and to push you off, right? Ward wants to turn this into as much of a core body wrestling match as possible. But to do that, he needs to get by a jab that Kovalev should be able to keep going, right, for 5 or 6 rounds. Right? Now, of course, keep in mind, Kovalev's jab is great. When you slip it, Kovalev has power shots. The jab is such a can opener that it enables Kovalev to then let his hands go and to actually hit you with bombs. Let me also point out, too, that Kovalev is from the Rocky Marciano school of boxing, so to speak. Right? Some guys wait for openings before they throw big shots. Rocky Marciano famously would see it and hit it. Right? He didn't have to wait for openings. In fact, with Marciano, if you had your hands like this, Marciano would hit you on your muscles. The idea was sooner or later your biceps going to get so torn up that this hand will be useless. In other words, Kovalev doesn't have to be a counterpuncher this fight. His jab is so good that he can be a lead puncher. He doesn't have to wait on Andre Ward. Right? So, I feel that Kovalev should win this fight. Right? I think Kovalev, the feeling of injustice, the fact that there's a silent crowd out there, I'd be one of them, but I'm being vocal here, who believes that Kovalev won the first fight. Right? The fact that long-term boxing fans want justice over image. Right? We can look at a guy and say, wow, this guy's a great ambassador for the sport of boxing. But if he's, has lost the fight, we don't want his hand raised at the end of it. Right? So, I like Kovalev the underdog here. I believe Ward's only chance of winning the fight, in my opinion, is by decision. Right? So, I like Kovalev to win. I'll hedge the play with the over. Why the over and not Ward to win by decision? Simply because if Kovalev wins by decision, which is a distinct possibility, understand the first fight, the official version, has him losing by 1 round. 1 round. Right? This way, if Kovalev wins by decision, I win on both halves of the bet. Right? Kovalev simply to win. He's the underdog. You're getting great odds. Better than even money. Right? Hedged with the over. I think you're good to go. Right? I don't think, since Andre really made his reputation at 168, I don't think Andre has the punch at 175 to stop Kovalev. I'm expecting Kovalev's stamina to be greatly improved. Right? I'm expecting his mental mindset to be even more determined than it was the first fight. What I believe happened in that first fight was I believe Kovalev knocked down Ward in a fight he's winning, gets to the later rounds and thought, you know what, I'm up a few rounds on the judges' cards. Let me play it safe. Let me not take risks. Let me not try to knock this guy out. Let me just go the distance here and get the decision. Right? It cost him. Right? I don't think Kovalev ever imagined, as the 12th round ended, that he was at risk of losing the fight. Right? Ward does many things better than Kovalev. Right? But Kovalev's jab is a fastball. Right? He backs that up with great power, which is a curveball in essence. Right? And I just don't think Ward can handle Kovalev's jab when Kovalev is 100%. Right? The big question in this fight is Kovalev going to tire like he did the first fight? Right? That's the million-dollar question. I believe because Kovalev feels he was ripped off by the judges, right? He's not going to tire. He's going to have that adrenaline going, right? Understand the mindset. We've seen it in, several times in boxing history. You get a hungry guy like this whose only professional loss he feels he was robbed on. Kovalev could have a 3-round lead in round 9. He's still going to have his foot on the gas. Right? He's still going to be digging in deep against Andre Ward. And let's be real here. Both of these guys are in their 30s. This is a little bit different than a Kell Brook, Errol Spence dynamic where you're fighting a younger guy who's in his 20s. I don't think either of these guys is going to have that much more stamina than the other. So I like Kovalev here to win. I'm going to hedge the play with the over in the fight. Yes, I'm taking the guy who lost the first fight. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video on either the Kovalev fight or on the Tiger Woods situation. Let me hear from you. Thanks for stopping by.